I'm Ross Haddow. I am brand manager of PR and digital for Guinness Africa.
Ross, how big is Africa as a market for Guinness relative to all the other markets that Guinness is in?
Well, Guinness is actually has a huge heritage in Africa. We actually first landed on the continent in 1827. Not many people know that. And we've have over 150 years of rich heritage. We actually began brewing on the continent since the 1960s. So in fact, Guinness is much, or certainly consumers think of it as much African as people in Britain, as people in Europe think of it as much Irish. So Africa is a hugely important market. Nigeria is in fact the biggest market in the world in terms of NSV, with Cameroon at fourth, and Kenya and Ghana fast growing as well.
What's the big attraction of Guinness to African drinkers, do you think?
The rich history on the continent is so ingrained. Not just the taste. So when it was shipped over on army boats, in fact, in the 1800s, any surplus stock was actually given to the locals, and they really built up and grew up a taste for it. So that's obviously ingrained in culture, passed down from generation to generation. But it's also the way that we connect with consumers through our marketing programs, and the real insight of and the real feeling of a Guinness man seems to connect very strongly with Africans in terms of people who want to step up, realize their potential, and certainly be a, as we put it, be a player and not a spectator in life. That's very much seen as the Guinness man. All our Guinness advertising and marketing programs has been around that insight about really there is something inside of any African men. In fact, it's a global insight across any men across the world. It really has the potential in them to be great. One of the famous campaigns in Africa was around Michael Power. And that was from the late 90s through to the early noughties, and he became such a symbol in African consumers for the power that we in fact made a feature film about Michael Power. And there were stories. I wasn't there at the time, but there were stories of him being preceded in buses across these major cities with thousands of followers.
Is it a men's drink, or do African women actually drink it?
African women love Guinness, certainly a lot more than you would expect. We found that levels of adorership, as we call it, for Guinness in Ghana, certainly in Nigeria as well, are sometimes even stronger than that of male drinkers. That's the love for the brands. Across the continent, the majority are male drinkers, but we're finding increasingly that women really like like to drink Guinness.